All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Agabraten, and I have the ultimate privilege to be your host today of the Dirtbags podcast. We have a gigantic episode coming for you here. We have episode number 122 that is Failing Forward with Kristina McMillan. If you guys have ever been on LinkedIn, if you've ever listened to any podcasts, you already know who Kristina is. We had the honor of finally having her on the show. You'll hear in my intro of her, it's a bit long because she is an absolute studette. She's a leader, speaker, founder, dirtbagette herself, mother. She's spent over 20 years in her role and just different roles in leadership, but also 15 plus in construction. So just such a wealth of knowledge. I'm so excited to dive in on this episode with her, and you guys are absolutely going to love it. So if you aren't already, connect with her on LinkedIn, Kristina McMillan. But if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. Connect with me, Luke Agabraten, but also connect with Kristina and all of our guests that we have on. So excited to dive into this episode with you guys. As always, let me know what you guys think. I always love your feedback. You guys have been sending me some really good guests of who to have on next. This network effect really helps me of who do you guys want to hear on the show, who's coming next, and it's just been an absolute blast. A couple other updates for you. Obviously, as you guys can see, I'm wearing this sweet Great Divide Earthworks hoodie. Thank you to Dave Newby from Great Divide Earthworks, the man himself. I'm sure, hopefully, if I can get through to his agent, he will be on the show at some point as well. And then these sweet new rope hats that we got for Phaser. I bought 50 of them. You guys basically bought every single one of them. So huge thank you to you guys. Sold all 50 in 2 days, and we ordered 100 more. So I'll let you guys know as soon as those come available. It's these ones I'm wearing here. For those that were asking where we get our merch, we have a few different vendors. Figured I'd just shout them out here. Any hats like this, any of our patch hats that we have, got the whole wall behind us. I usually go through a company called custompatchhats.com. Reach out to them. Make sure you get connected with my guy, Angel. I've been working with him for probably 4 years on all of our hats. They do a great job. A couple other companies that we use, MediaShackFargo.com. So Media Shack, they're based out of Fargo. Great guys there. They can do any custom work, sweatshirts, hats, things like that. So anytime we have something a little more custom, I'll usually go with them. Reach out to either Sean Kamstra or Connor Groskebauer. They are great friends of mine. Been working with them a long time. And then finally, Zephyr or Lake Shirts in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. They can do t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, things like that. So usually rotate between those three and then a couple others too. So figured I'd give you guys those resources. Of course, always feel free to name drop me if you want. I've been working with them a long time, and they do great work for us. And then a couple other things. We did post about our recent Phaser Trade School Scholarship. A few of you guys reached out to me on that. It's the 6th year we've done it. Basically, my high school, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, Phaser Marketing has a trade school scholarship for a graduating senior. What that is, basically, it's just money for somebody that is going into a trade school, and we want to help pay their way through it. So 6 years ago, Phaser Marketing was just a side hustle, and we wanted to give back to the trades. And so started this fundraiser. Super easy. If you want to do it yourself, just call your school, say, hey, can I give money to a senior? They will likely have a program for that. Ours is Dollars for Scholars. It's super organized. The only thing I have to do is write the check and sometimes get to present it, which is super fun. But started out at $500. It was basically all of our profit. But the point is don't wait until you're rich and famous to give back. Like, start today. Don't wait 5 years from now. Just start today. And then since then, we've increased it every year on purpose just to keep pushing ourselves to give more. We recently, this last week, gave a $2,500 scholarship. A guy named Wyatt Jorgensen, awesome guy, graduating senior. He's going to a trade school to become an electrician. And so just continuing to try and do our part to shine a light on the trades and specifically construction industry. But the reason I'm talking about this is because obviously we can't do it alone. I want to try and encourage you guys out there that are listening that maybe have $500 to give. And when you do it on a yearly budget, trust me, you won't miss it. And these students need it, and they deserve it as well. So our future is in great hands from what I've seen from all the years we've been doing this. And we're just very honored to be able to give back in that way. If anyone listening to this right now has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I love this kind of stuff. I love doing our best to help out. Would love to help ideate some things that you can do on your end. Feel free to just shoot me a text, 218-234-7345. Or, of course, you can always reach out to me on all my social media, either on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. With that, we have a huge episode I want to get you guys into. As always, I'll thank our sponsors during the episode, and I'll give them a shout out here just so you guys know listening. Great Divide Earthworks, unofficial sweatshirt sponsor, Phaser Marketing, hat sponsor for this episode. And then, of course, we have Sledgehammer, Elgin, and Charlie Huff. So Charlie Huff, I'll have his phone number in there, and then Sledgehammer and Elgin will have their websites and phone number in the ad read as well, and in the description. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for all that you do to support the podcast. If you haven't yet, leave us a review, leave us 5 stars, follow the podcast, subscribe to it. All of that helps a ton, and it helps keep this show on the move. So we are now over 100 reviews on Spotify. Thank you guys for getting us up there. And we'd really like to keep pushing it too on Apple Podcasts. So if you have both, do it on both. That would be huge. Send me a screenshot. And if you do, would love to hook you up with something, send you something in the mail, just as a simple thank you from me. With that, let's dive in here. We have a huge episode, Failing Forward. This is episode number 122 with Kristina McMillan. As always, reach out to her, let her know that you listened to the episode. Reach out to me, let me know if you have any feedback, any future guests you'd love to have on. And as always, let's dive into it. Let's have a great, great day. And Brandon, that's your cue. If you want to cue the music, let's get into this episode number 122 with Kristina McMillan. All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Eggebrotten, and I am so excited to be here with you all today on this beautiful day. Episode number 122 of the Dirtbags podcast. Everyone knows episode number 122 is a very special episode, and we saved it for a ginormous guest. I am so excited. Somebody I've known for a long time now, Minnesota, born and raised, was Eden Prairie, which says something, but now is no longer there. So one of my great friends, leader of mine, mentor, and just all around amazing person. I am so excited to welcome in. I had to shorten my intro for our guest here, but so excited to welcome in leader, speaker, founder, dirtbagette herself, mother with 22 years of experience and 15 years of that in the construction world, Kristina McMillan. Welcome to the Dirtbags podcast.
Holy shit, that's a lot to live up to. I feel like you probably said that on episode 121, so I'm going to go back and be like, this is such a special episode.
You know, everyone knows that 122 is like one of the most special numbers, so we wanted to make sure that we came with fireworks and that we're going to knock it out of the park here. So, Kristina, welcome to the show. I know you and I have known each other for a long time now, which has been crazy, really, to see how both of us have gone all these different directions. We see each other here and there, but all of a sudden now it's like we've probably known each other for 4 or 5 years. And
Like it's longer because I knew you before we started Crew, and that was 6 years ago. So yeah, it's been a minute. Why? Like if you think back, like where your life was 6 years ago, it's pretty wild because even when I reflect back on like this time last year, I'm like, holy shit, a lot has changed in the last 3 weeks for me even. And you're gonna be a dad now. Like I feel like I've watched you grow up. That's deep.
yeah, that's surprising to a lot of people. It's like, wow, it's gonna be a dad. Like, how is that gonna work? But
Oh, you're gonna be the best dad. I cannot wait to see you in that role. It's like the best club to be a parent.
thank you. I really appreciate that. We've talked about it a little bit on the show, but you're so right. Like, even the baby's not even here yet. I feel like so much of my perspective has already changed. Like, the little frustrations that used to irk me or get me going, it's like, I don't even care about that anymore. Like, there's a human being growing in my wife, and like, it is a little baby and such a miracle. Like, every ultrasound too, and just this whole process has been beautiful and amazing. But yeah, I'm very excited to join the dad club.
When I was pregnant with both of my kids, the thing, like, always boggled my mind was there was, like, a butt inside of my stomach. So it's always like, "There's a butt growing inside of my stomach," and I don't or, like, inside of my belly, and I don't know why, but that was, like, the thing that I hyper focused on was the fact that there's a butt there.
I never thought of that. And speaking of butts, and like, it's so funny how much I'm learning and how much we all learn during this process. Because
Mhm.
Olivia and I were on our walk the other day, and I'm just like, I hope this isn't a stupid question, but does the baby, like, poop and pee inside of you? Like, how does that work? And she, at first she's kinda like, "No." And it's, "Well, I don't really know the answer." So we had to look it up, but it's like, it's amazing how much we've learned about babies, stroller, just like the cycle of everything is. And one thing that's been very comforting for both of us is every single person on the world has been born,
Yeah.
like,
That
through
yeah.
some type of process. So it's like, it's really not that big of a deal in terms of, like, they've done it before, but it's just been very, very encouraging.
Yeah, and there's nothing that'll shift your, mindset. Even in, like, business and, like, how you lead and how you approach people as humans more than being a parent because there's nothing that exposes your insecurities more, your strengths more, and, like, makes you realize that everything you learned up to now was kinda like preparation for this, and you're still not prepared.
Yeah, there's no form of preparation we can do to be fully ready.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it. So, Christina, would love to dive in for our audience here. As I mentioned in the intro, you've had over 15 years of experience in construction. You mentioned a few other things like you're a speaker, founder of Crew Collab. Um, and also, too, you have this awesome new job, senior director of market strategy. I was trying to figure out, like, where do we want to start, but let's start there and we can work backwards if needed. So, what do you currently do? And, like, where does your expertise lie in with all these years of experience, and what do you do best?
That's been a question I've been asking myself a lot. Uh, when I started in construction, I actually came so I'm gonna take it back to go forward, actually. When I started in construction, I came from industries that were not anywhere near to this space. I was actually a high-end jewelry designer before I joined the construction industry, and prior to that, I was a concert producer and a festival manager. So, you know, not anywhere close to the construction space, and I made a decision to push into construction because I felt like the work I was doing was not impacting the world enough. I'm very focused on how I'm impacting people around me and how I'm making what I'm leaving behind, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like construction has such a unique opportunity to do that, not just physically, but on the perspectives and personas of people in general. And so about 15 years ago, I left a very uh, successful business in luxury goods selling $20,000 engagement rings to people in South Minneapolis and chose to go into construction. And I've always been in leadership. I've never worked in the field, although I did go back and soup for a while, and I did go back and get certified in welding just because I wanted to understand different perspectives of the industry, but my skill set has always been in bossing people around. I say it is being a good parent, like, I like looking at different strategies and different perspectives and then kinda shifting direction for different things, and so I started in residential, working for a local home builders association. From there, I just naturally started coaching small businesses. I
Mm.
think that when you understand business, you automatically want to help small businesses do better. And construction businesses, business owners, as a rule, and you probably see this all the time in what you do, is they start their business because they know they can do it better than wherever they were before. And so they'll start doing it, but just because they start doing it and they're doing it better does not mean that they understand how a business should function. And so my whole consulting business, which I started in 2016, I think, was centered around the idea of taking these business owners who were at 1 to 5 million in revenue, who just had no idea who like their key hires should be or like how to market their company and like how do I build a website, which obviously is your secret sauce over there? And like,
Oh, no.
how do I be a business, right? How do I not just go out in the field and do it, but how do I actually be a business and want people to work for me? And that's what I did for, you know, until a few years ago, was consult on those businesses. And it was insanely rewarding, but also in a lot of ways, I had no business doing that because I was learning as I was going as well.
Mm.
So, um, yeah. And from all these different backgrounds, doing jewelry and bartending and running with these construction companies and learning with them, I have a very weird skill set. And what I'm really good at is people and workforce development and business development and understanding what we need to do differently to grow businesses. And that's basically what I'm going to be doing at Roars. And I could not be more excited. Like the job description could not be more tailored to my weird ass skill set, which is awesome. I've never felt so seen by a company who put this job in front of me. So I'm
That's
yeah.
amazing. I mean, I'm fired up for you because and obviously I would change the word from weird to unique because it is very unique where it's kind of like niching down, like kind of like what we've done where
Mhm.
our expertise is only for a certain company. And a lot of people would say that's weird or that's dumb or you're alienating 99.9% of businesses. But when you have an opportunity like that, it's like, well, this is why I'm built this way, or this is how I can really help. And you can really hit the ground running there. So, yeah, huge shout out to Roar's companies and you starting there. And I'm super excited maybe in a year from now having another episode with you just to see like what has transpired from your time there and also what have you seen because as we all know too, especially with the podcast, like things can become a little outdated in 12 months and 24 months and things like that. So it's I always like to reconnect and reconvene with our guests and just see like what has happened. So Christine, I want to take one step back. You mentioned you've worked a lot with small businesses, of course, and especially in construction. A lot of people listening probably own a construction company. One thing that I would love to ask you is you mentioned the key hires and some of the things that you look at there. You can broad stroke this as much as you want, but what do you see as like maybe companies doing it well do versus companies not doing it well in terms of like growing and scaling? And what type of key hires would be pivotal on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, that's a broad question for a very specific type of situation. And so it's hard to answer that without, diving into specifics with a company. But I do think that when you're in the business and you're not working on the business, which we've all heard a million times, right? Like you're working in the business, so you can't work on the business. It's very hard to take a step back and not immediately hire, another field person or another operator when you have all this work in the field that needs to be done. And instead stepping back and hiring an office administrator or somebody to, maybe fractionally run your HR services or focusing on really your financials because that gets messy and you're sort of fucked at that point. And to unravel from that type of mess can be very difficult, but when your hair is on fire and you're working just in the field, I totally understand why certain hires are made, and you just add more and more into that space and just neglect the office. And so my number one thing when I go into these businesses was always like, who's managing stuff for the office? Like, who's making sure payroll gets run and who's making sure that if you're a union company, like who's communicating with the union and who's
Mhm.
making sure that like your vendors are getting paid. And if the answer is the owner is going home and doing that for 4 hours after working a full day, on site, that's not sustainable. And that company is going to have a hard time growing at all. So
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Christina, because in the short term, all business owners will do that, and that's perfectly okay. Like we own businesses, that's just what's required. But like you said, sustainable long term. There's either our pricing is off, our estimating is off, our expenses are off. Like something is mismanaged here because if that is our capacity, that the owner has to be working 24 hours a day, every single day, that is just not a scalable business. And so, yeah, to your point, it's like short term, that's fine. But like as we grow out of it, we do need to start handing off some of these hats. And a good method I like to use is delegate, automate, or eliminate. Like we're either delegating that task to a person, we're either automating it using software or technology, or we're eliminating it. Maybe it's something we don't need to be doing. And so just keep an eye on that. And typically these are tasks that are things you're not good at and you hate to do as the owner. And so taking a list of those or taking a look at those tasks and Christina, you mentioned a few great examples there. Like the owner doesn't have to do everything, and nor should they. Should they know the broad scope of everything that's going on? Absolutely. But should they always be doing everything? I would say no.
I think the struggle too that a lot of small business owners have is trust. When you bring people in to run things, trusting that they're going to do it the way that you want them to is so hard to let go of the reins a little bit and just say, I trust you to do this because, and then, people are going to let you down too. You, if it's not their business, they're not going to be as invested in it as you are. So you have to make sure that you're also paying these people well enough that that you can trust them because they're invested at that point.
Yeah. I think you can definitely find the leak in some of these strategies here of just are we not paying them enough? Are they not the right people? A lot of these fixes can, or a lot of these issues can be found in the hiring process of, well, these people aren't working out. It's like, well, let's take a look at your interview process or let's take a look at the candidates you're looking at. And so I always try and think of it as like we're looking at a sewer line, like find the leak in the sewer line and let's go fix that. And so there is a process to everything. And Christina, you mentioned too of just building trust. What really helps build trust is when you systemize things of the way you want it done. And so if you go through and you build an SOP and a checklist of, hey, this is how I'd want it done every single time, and then you bring those people in to run that system, uh, there's a clear differentiator, a clear answer of like if it was done or not done. Because if they went through it and they checked it off, it should be done. If there's still an issue, you can easily find out where the problem was.
100%. And I think that, I was actually just talking to Missy about this the other day because Missy Sugarberg, she's a small business owner and one of my closest friends. And we talk a lot about, well, where we've come from and where we're going. But in a lot of ways, I'm reflecting back on my time as a consultant and saying to myself, I had no business doing what I was doing. In a lot of cases, I didn't know enough to coach some of these business owners, and taking ownership of that now and understanding where my skill set is almost like what I was trying to do for them, right? Like I wish somebody had said to me like, "Hey, you need to understand this better before you can go in and do it for other people." And for that reason, I feel like a lot of times I did a disservice because I write very eloquently on LinkedIn. Like that's a skill. That's a skill I have. And a lot of times people read what I write and they automatically think I know everything about all the things I'm writing about. And that's been hard to wrap my head around, right? Because just because you share a feeling about something does not mean you're the expert on that thing. And that's tough. But also in a lot of cases, I feel like I just became like a counselor or like a
Mm.
leadership coach for these people as opposed to delivering on the things that I wanted to deliver on and help on. It became more like these people just really need someone to talk to who understands business and need to be told in no indirect terms where they're screwing up and where they need help. And at the end of the day, that's really what the whole job came down to. Like, where are you screwing up? Where do you need help? And are you going to be honest enough, me as a consultant, to tell you where you're screwing up? Because I can do that all day without a
I
problem.
was gonna say you're a very honest person.
There's no worries about me being honest. No.
That's that's awesome. And as I know we're talking about your consulting, so catch me up on that a little bit. You started in 2016. Will you continue doing that? Are we going to focus more on Roar's companies and your role there? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So about 4 years ago, I was consulting. I was traveling all over because heaven forbid passive aggressive Minnesota hire me because I'm way too straightforward. So a lot of my clients were on the East Coast. No surprise there. They love it. Like they love my personality because I just say it exactly how it is. But I had just gone through a divorce. I'm a single parent, and my parents are my neighbors, which is great. So they help with my kids, but my priorities shifted. Up until that point, I was really okay with traveling because it got me away from a really uncomfortable home before I got divorced. And then I wanted to be home all the time. And so needed to switch the direction that I was trying to push my life. And it's okay to switch directions. It's okay to pivot at any point. And so I said, I need to be home more and I want to go in-house at a company, and I want to focus on one team, and I want to be able to have people. Like I want to have people that I don't just sign a contract with and then I let go of, right? Because it was just me. And so, with you, you have a team and your company's grown big enough that like you have that like home team space, right? I felt very lonely and siloed. And so shutting down the company was what I needed to do. I took a long time, found a great place, ended up at this local general contractor called Ironmark. Definitely the best decision for me was to go in house somewhere. And I was only there for 10 months before I got poached for this new job that I'm going to. And I know it's all the right decisions, and all I do is just like, put it to God and say, am I doing the right thing here? And sometimes I feel like he tells me, and sometimes I feel like he has to, like we were saying earlier, he has to slap me upside the head to say, all right, get your shit together. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. Um, but yeah, I mean, pretty much my whole life has been a link of like, you know, gut feelings and like leaps of faith is pretty much how I've built my career.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, when we ignore the God winks, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna have to make it more obvious for you. Um,
Yard.
yeah, Christina, when you mentioned you wanted to travel, or you didn't mind traveling because it got you away from a home you didn't want to be at. You mentioned your journey of your career and trusting your gut. How has your faith been throughout maybe that whole process, and has it evolved over time?
Yeah, my faith has been interesting. Uh, it's something I'm very comfortable talking about now. I try to post on Sundays and do my Sunday service after I go to church on LinkedIn, which I know is not like normally a LinkedIn thing, but I don't really care. Um, I grew up with a strong faith. I was involved with Young Life. Locally was really into all that. When I went to college, I had a whole lot of trauma happen in my life. When I was in college, I was raped twice. I then entered into a very abusive, horrible marriage with a man who was full-time military and addicted to opioids and just not good. And, throughout the rest of my life, just went through a lot of different trauma. I won't dig into like all of it, but I mean, I've had cancer twice. I've um I've survived a lot of things, and I feel like I had to go through all of those things because the type of mentor I've become to other women who go through those things, and the rooms I've been able to speak in front of for like domestic violence and for just women trying to rebuild themselves after they've been through a trauma, and being able to speak on those things from experience is exactly who I'm supposed to be. And coming back to my faith lately, like I'm probably going to get rebaptized here in the next couple months because
Yeah.
I rejoined a church about a year ago, and the amount of work that has been done in my life over the last year has been astounding. Like the amount of positive things that have happened since I started choosing to listen and choosing to like see the positive and negative things. I just think that when you spend your life focusing negatively on all the things that are happening to you, you don't get to see the things that are happening for you. And that is a really great way to lose faith. But if you start showing up with an open heart and you start focusing on what can you do for other people and how can you bring them into the fold, and even if they don't come away from conversations with you with a faith, at least they come away with a positive outlook. And especially when you lead with your imperfection and, with failure and the ways that you've royally screwed up your life in different ways. But then also pointing to the fact, but like, look at this, that this is how I picked myself up. This is how I utilize faith to do that. Um, I think that's when you really see the full circle and you're able to step back and really see. It's like that, story from the Bible or whatever, where it's like, why is there only one set of footprints in the sand? And it's like, well, that's when I was carrying you. Um, I think that when you reflect back on a life like mine, or really anybody's life, if you reflect back, because we've all got our shit, um, it's easy to be like, I did that for myself. But really, in all reality, I feel like really faith carried me through a lot of places where I did not even realize that I was being carried.
Do you feel like now you're in a stronger place to look back at that and realize that maybe some of those incredibly difficult times had a different meaning for some reason or another in your life?
Yeah, I think that, obviously, I don't think that there's ever a place for someone to go through the type of violence or, things that I experienced. Um, but in the same vein, I will say that I think that there is. I think that God puts a certain amount of strength and resilience into certain people so that I can have that experience and then be able to turn to an 18-year-old or a 22-year-old who's going through something similar, who thinks that their whole life is over, or they don't see that they have any value anymore because something happened to them. Um, or even like normal everyday things like you got cheated on, like, or you got somebody let you down in a friendship, or like somebody doesn't see your value. Um, if somebody can talk to you from a place of like, hey, I've had that low, low, low thing happen to me before where I wasn't sure how I was going to get out of it. And it's all a mindset and it's all a decision. You get to decide whether your life is going to flourish and move forward, or whether you're going to let this thing that happened to you be the thing that defines you. And so I think that I just like to look at everything because it's the only way I can justify shitty things that have happened, is that it happened for a reason so that I was able to turn around and be a better mother and be a better mentor and be a better leader, because I can understand all these different things that have happened to people, and the empathy is just real. It's not fake.
All right, you dirtbags. I want to take one quick second, maybe a couple more, to thank our three wonderful sponsors all at once. So we just do one ad read. And thank you guys for listening to the show. But huge shout out to our three sponsors. You've heard me talk about them many times before. Um, Charlie Huff, the insurance legend when it comes to construction companies. Shoot him a text if you're looking to just compare prices, if you want a free quote, or if you want to just switch over to him because he knows the industry. His cell number, 435-764-4833. That's our guy, Charlie Huff. So many of you guys listening use him. We even use him for our company at Phaser, and he's just a man for the people. So shoot him a text. Of course, let him know you heard him on the Dirtbags podcast. It's always nice to get credit, and for him to, he always shoots me a text with a screenshot and just says, thanks for sending you guys over. But 435-764-4833. Charlie is the man. Massive shout out, of course, to Elgin Corporation. Elgin has been supporting the Dirtbags podcast for a while now. You can check them out on Instagram at Elgin Corporation, or learn more about what they do on their website, elgin.com. Elgin's been supporting us, but also they support our veterans of this wonderful country, and they help place veterans, U.S. veterans into the workplace. And we had that episode, I believe it was episode 94, the 4th of July special with Drew Nicolai. to talk more about Elgin and what they do for the industry, the wastewater, the septic industry, but also what they do for our country. And it is just, we're so honored to get to work with them and so thankful. So reach out to Elgin at Elgin Corporation on Instagram or elgin.com to see if their products are right for you. And finally, huge shout out to our team over at Sledgehammer. This is everyone, Will, Dr. Wickham, the whole team over there has just been absolutely incredible. Sledgehammer, you can go check out their new fancy website, sledgehammer.net. They have all their information on there of how you can become a network partner with them and use their products to have a whole new revenue stream, but also to take care of your clients even better when it comes to advanced septic solutions. So go check them out, sledgehammer.net, or of course, give them a follow on their Instagram at Sledgehammer Group Ltd. Let them know you heard them on the Dirtbags podcast. That is all that we have for our ad reads today. Thank you guys for listening to the show as well. So let's get right back into it. Take me into your mindset today. So this morning you get up. It is a Wednesday morning. Obviously, you got the new role starting. Like, what is your mindset? What is your perception? Like, what is your outlook on the day today? Like, what is that like? Take me in there.
Um, I mentioned to you earlier, like so many things in my life right now have completely shifted in the past 3 weeks. I had a long-term relationship end, which I thought was going to be like a marriage and blended families. And so that's over. I had to end a job with a team that I actually really liked and really enjoyed. It's a new season, it's spring here. And, I've lost like 25 pounds recently and I've really just dug into my health. And so I feel like we're in a season of super bloom. And like I was just hearing this story about like this desert that's blooming like crazy out west. And I don't know where it is. I need to look it up. But it like only blooms every like few centuries and or decades. I don't know. I don't know the full details. But I feel like I'm that desert, right? Like, I feel like I've had all these things happen in my life that are so horrible, and I feel like my faith is so strong right now that this is when I'm getting all the great things. And, I think maybe I'll, like, be talking to you in 3 weeks, and I'm like, "Well, I was wrong, everything sucks." But, for right now, today, I'm blessed to be a mom to 2 healthy kids. I'm blessed to have my own home, which I own. I'm blessed to be able to, like, have really great food that I can serve and I can, prepare. But also I'm really happy to have, like, this imperfect body, but it's mine and it's strong, and this opportunity to do a really great work in an industry that I love. So that's how I'm feeling right now. And yeah, I mean, some stuff sucks, but I choose not to focus on it and not to let it bring me down. It's like, all right, something shitty happened. Is there anything we can do about it? No. Well, then fuck it. Let's move on. So yeah. Sorry. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Oh, it's I like how you ask 30 minutes in. Absolutely. Yes, it is the Dirtbags podcast for a reason. Every episode is explicit. So we just automatically mark it explicit every time.
Yeah. Whenever I do
Uh,
speaking, I'm like, you guys, I'm not a professional. I'm going to curse. So
yeah. No, I love it. And Christina, it's just very well said too. Sometimes I love to hear in people's mindsets of just like, what is your outlook on the day? Because, yes, so many bad things have happened and you addressed it too. Like also bad things have happened to a lot of people. And also there's so many good things. And I think, and I've also been very blessed and very lucky and very thankful. um, like what do we want to give our time and energy to um, stew in and to focus on and to give the time of day. And I think when I think about that, it's like you're choosing to spend time at the best you can, right? It's not easy, but spend time on the positive things and the things you're looking forward to and the exciting things because I mean, you still have a life to live, you still have a job to do, you still have these wonderful things ahead of you and people that care about you as well. So it is amazing to hear that from you. And we were talking about it before the podcast as well, but And not that any of these are obviously failures or anything, but you mentioned it a second ago about failing and failures, but failing forward or failing up. Like, talk to me a little bit about that. And maybe if there is somebody listening that is in that rut, like, how can they try and break through that and fail forward so that they learn from something that they're going through?
Listen, I've probably failed. I think I've failed more than most people have failed, and I think that's probably because I'm always willing to try something. I'll try it once and then I'll fall down and, there's no other choice but to get up. And that's the thing that you're gonna figure out being a parent too. Like, people are always like, "Oh, Christina, how do you keep going?" Or "How do you get past that?" And it's like, well, I got 2 humans that are relying on me to pay the bills and get things done. I don't have time to fall apart. I don't have time to, lay in bed all day. There's no space for that. Um, but I mean, I've failed a lot. Like, starting as far back to high school, I was a C minus student and people said I would never do anything with my life. And, you know, I'd like to think I've done some stuff with my life. And so, I just think that, for example, a lot of people have heard of BuildWit. A lot of people look up to that company. I admire them as well. I was one of BuildWit's first few employees. I was employee number 7. And a lot of people actually found me at that point on LinkedIn because, I mean, BuildWit has like really revolutionized the way that we do marketing and construction. Love them or hate them. But I worked with them for less than a year, and then it ended. It wasn't a good thing. It didn't fit. It didn't fit for them and it didn't fit for me. And it ended. And it was such a failure in my mind that I couldn't make it work with BuildWood, a marketing company for construction, when that's literally the space that I'm living in. And from there, the traction only grew because I wasn't going to let go of the traction that I was gaining right at that point, because you can take that and let it define you, or you can take the message and you can recreate it and create your own narrative from that. And so that's what I did. I've I've had a few failures in professional space where I literally thought that my career would be ruined. And it's just not an option to fail, like, what do you do? Like what do you do if you let yourself I don't have a great answer for that. Like, if you open up the door to admitting that there's no way to move forward, how do you get anywhere? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. I don't know. What do you think?
I guess my first thought goes to where would you be if you made 0 failures?
Yeah, nowhere.
Yeah. And is that the life you want to live? Is from day one to now, I didn't fail once. And like, what have you learned in that process?
Yeah. Like, financially, when I was consulting, I had a client who I didn't do a legit contract with, and they ended up owing me like $30,000, which, small business, working for myself, like 30 grand might not seem to a lot to a lot of people, but that was everything to me at that
Yeah.
time. And I ended up having to go to small claims court with them. It did not go well. And they were out there trying to trash my reputation. I had to come up with all this proof of things that I'd done. And a lot of times when you're doing marketing or consulting, there's no like tangible piece for you to hold on to and say, no, I did that. And so that was really tough. Another big failure is I actually filed for bankruptcy a few years ago. And I think that not enough people talk about the pains that financial issues can cause. For me, I just never was taught how to manage my own money, and then I got into a relationship with my ex-husband where he wasn't great with money either, worse than I was. And so coming out of that and then having to pay for daycare for 2 kids and then because that's basically a mortgage, and then having to do all the things that it takes to run a home because I refuse to let my kids suffer for my choices. Yeah, I ended up filing bankruptcy and I thought that was a big failure, but actually was the best thing that's happened to me financially in a really long time. Uh,
Wow.
And so I think that's an important message for people too. Like if you are struggling and you're thinking about filing for bankruptcy, I don't want to be like, yeah, bankruptcy, but it's not the end of the world. It's it's just part of life. It doesn't mean you failed. It gives you an opportunity to reset. Um, yeah. So,
Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, it's you're this type of situation is like why we do this show is because people are real and honest. I would love to park on that for a little bit and ask some questions just
yeah.
further about the bankruptcy because I think what happens and I'll boil it down a couple ways is just like as you mentioned Christina just kind of like basic financial literacy like we need to start there because a lot of us aren't good with money and so just understanding the basics of how it works but then too it can get really messy and scary when you add business in because some people think that when you have an LLC, it's like different than your personal. And it's like if it's a single member LLC, like you owe that money, right? And so we can almost become numb to the debt that we're signing for in a business. Or if we go get an SBA loan for $250,000, I mean, we have to realize the weight of that. So I would love to hear from you. Like, what have you learned in that bankruptcy process? But also, like, coming out of it now, like, how do you avoid going back into that same process or that same situation that you were into?
I think that in order to file, you have to be fully humble, right?
Mhm.
You have to own all your mistakes and all the things that you've done wrong financially. Um, it's really painful and honestly one of the most humbling things I've had to do. And I think that if you would talk to me prior to that and then talk to me after it, you would find me a much more grounded person, right? Um, Me from 6 years ago versus me now is is in two entirely different mindsets. And that's okay, and I love that about myself. I've never been happier with who I am than I am today. And filing bankruptcy had a big role in that. I was never taught how to handle my financials whatsoever. I cannot stress enough how important it is that I think that kids should be learning this in high school because it's not taught. We don't understand it. And I just, like you said, my business got started. I got stuck with a couple clients who were not great, and that can really tank everything. And as a small business owner, it's very easy to say, when I get my next contract or when my next big payout comes, like I'll resolve all this. The problem is the expenses keep coming. And
Mhm.
so it's hard to keep caught up or even get caught up or even like get to the point where you're comfortable. And going through that also mindset of like going through a divorce. And when you're getting divorced and you have kids who are like aware of what's happening, they're not too young to understand and they're not too old to not care anymore. My kids were 3 and 7. And so all I wanted to do was like spoil the shit out of them at that point. I just wanted to make sure that they knew that this wasn't their fault and so I'm gonna take them to go to Great Wolf Lodge, and I'm gonna go do this, and I'm gonna pay for things that I have no business paying for as a parent at that point in my life of going from a double income to a single income home. Because I also bought a house right away because 'cause I'm a knucklehead. But also like, do I really wanna be renting and throwing my money away? Just a total different topic, but it was a good decision in the long run. Um, but when I got to the point where I was like, the the pay the minimum payments for my debt are beyond what I make, and I was making 6 figures easily. I had a
Mm.
great income, I always have. Um, it was rough, right? Like, this is not sustainable. And so actually having that conversation of that humility and taking away the pride of what I felt I needed to do, like, you can't go through bankruptcy, it'll ruin your life. And the opposite could not be more true for me personally, because I went through the bankruptcy. It was a fairly easy process for me. Honestly, I know it's not easy for everybody. Um, I got through it pretty quickly. I filed everything quickly. I was very compliant with the lawyers. got everything done. And now I'm at a point where, yes, I got a reset button, but like it really screws up your credit for a long time. What does
Yeah.
what does that do for me? It means I'm never going to fuck up that bad ever again. Right? I'm never ever going to let myself in that situation. I only keep a credit card with a small balance on it now. There are no lines of credit. There is no crazy vacations happening. Like, and I talk to my children about money all the time. They're 8 and 12 now. And I am constantly talking about, like, mom had to work really hard to do this. I'm really sorry that your friends can afford to go on cruises or go here and here. We can afford to buy a new basketball hoop. We can afford to go spend one night at Great Wolf Lodge for spring break this year. And that's a splurge for us. And because of that, I'm raising very aware, respectful kids who understand what it takes to earn and spend money. And so that to me is the huge win. And, you know, it's not that bad. Everybody like people file for bankruptcies. I bet you like a quarter of the people listening to this have probably filed. So there.
Uh, Christina, it's as you say that, it just gets me thinking like, how often do you hear about this? Let's just start with our podcast. How often have we talked about bankruptcy on the podcast like this? Not once. I can't think of one time. And but you mentioned what, a fourth of the people listening have probably gone through it. And so it is so important to talk about it because like you mentioned, and I want to go back on this a little bit, when when you're it's kind of like that saying, like you make too much money to be this broke. And like if you're making, let's say, six figures and the numbers, the income doesn't matter. It's you have to look at the whole equation. It's the income and the outgo. And when you look and your income is going to the just barely making the minimum payments, like something drastic has to change. And as you look at all your options, and you know, they say too, like, can you get out of it without bankruptcy? Like you want to have all options on the table. But I love your perspective of it's not always status quo of just like you like here you are sitting here having this conversation with me. Everything seems completely fine and normal. And it's like the way you've perceived this situation and how you can move forward from it. I think what would be, and it's just, it's so great as I'm looping this all together is, you ta it's all happening. You can see the smoke coming out of my ears because you talked earlier about failing forward, right? And so it's like, what would have been catastrophic is if you had this situation happen, you file for bankruptcy and you end up in the same area because that means you didn't learn anything about the failure that happened or the situation or whatever we want to call it. So it's like the perfect example of how do you move forward, and that takes drastic change. And so you made the decision to file, you filed, but then your habits were not the same at after, you know, post bankruptcy. And so and it brings up an amazing conversation that we've also never talked about on the show that I'm having a conversation with Liv about often because we love talking about finances. We love learning about it, just financial literacy in general. Um, we love talking about it with both sets of our parents, even though they never grew up talking about that. And so what we've been talking about is how do we have these discussions with our kids? And obviously, as we have our first one on the way, it's what does that look like? We don't really know. And maybe I just want to pose the question like this, Christina. If you had, if you started over and you had two kids and they were like 1 years old and 3 years old, and as they grow up, like, would you teach them anything earlier or later? Like, how would you go about teaching your kids about money? Because it seems like I really like how you're treating it now with them, and it seems like they have a decent handle and awareness of it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I always like to pose those like, would I do this differently questions to myself. And I never know whether I would or not, right? Because you can only make the decisions you're making with the information that you have right now. And um I think I've always done I'm the same type of parent as I am the person that you see. I'm very honest. I know that there's certain things I need to protect my kids from as far as like details of certain situations or whatever. But if I feel like my kids are mature enough to talk about something, I'm gonna talk to them about it. Um, Financial literacy, though, it's hard because I'm still not amazing at it, and that's why I keep my financials very simple, right? Like, at this point, I know myself well enough that if my financials get overcomplicated, I'm never gonna be able to keep track of them. Now, my son, on the other hand, he's 12. He's high functioning autistic, very analytical. Like, he could probably balance my checkbook better than I can right now because he has a better grasp on those things, and different people have different skill sets. That's how it should be, right? So, I think that, would I do things differently? I don't know that I would, and I don't know that I would have started talking to them about it earlier. Um, in the same vein, I also feel like they need to hear these things from outside sources, not just their parents. So that's why I really feel like it needs to come from schools or, peer groups at church or whatever.
Mm.
Because I do think it needs to be like an educational service that is offered to people is to understand how finances work. I mean, look at student loans. Like, how many of us go to college? Like, I went to college in 2000 to 2004, and I was taking out student loans to pay for spring break trips. Like, nobody talked to me about student loans or like money. I mean, people are going to listen to this and be like, wow, she's a knucklehead. I mean,
Oh,
I know better now, but, you know, my parents are I'm first generation American. My parents are both immigrants or whatever you want to call them. And they didn't know any better. Like, we didn't know what we didn't know. And so my sister, who I love her very much, and she pissed me off when she said this to me the first time, but she's 5 years younger than me. And she was like, Christina, I'm never going to make any mistakes because I've learned from all of yours. And I'm like, your ass.
sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks for the compliment.
Yeah. So, like, I've made all the mistakes and I've learned all the lessons. And that's why I write about so many things on LinkedIn, and why I feel so strongly that I should just put it all out there because somebody, and this happens every time I post something that's a little off key or off character or whatever, like not as professional. I always get a message from somebody who's like, that reading that changed my life or changed the direction I was going to push with this or help me make this decision or made me feel like I'm not alone in this space. And so I haven't written about bankruptcy before, but now that I'm, a few years out, I think it might come up on there at some point. Uh, Sometimes it's a little too fresh and you don't want to get too harshly judged for the chapter of your life that you're in because there are still assholes out there. And I know you asked me about teaching kids financial literacy, and now I'm rambling, but here we are.
No, this I have a good resource too that just pulled up because like I said, we like this stuff, we like talking about it, but if somebody's listening and you just want the basics, just a basic foundation of financial literacy, there's this book that one of our financial advisors gave Olivia and I, and it's called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. And so if you just go on Google or you'll find it on Amazon, there's just on the front cover, you'll see a picture of a green sucker. And it's a small book. It's an easy read. It's very much, I think it was published like a couple years ago. So it's very relevant, but it gives different perspectives from different people and just helps teach you about money. I read it on a flight. I think it took me an hour and a half to read the whole book cover to cover. And then after it made a whole lot of sense to me. And I was already interested in this stuff, but I think somebody that wants to just make sure they don't get taken advantage of,
Mhm.
and just knows the basics of finances, it's a great, great book. And it's by Tom Matthews and Steve Siebold. So definitely check that book out. Easy read, quick. And then probably like if you do have older kids, like it's not a bad one to read with them or to have them read. And like you mentioned, Christina, I know personal finance classes are always electives or optional, which if anything, that should be what we are teaching.
Yeah, like the fact that my kids are learning about Greek history right now, but not learning how to like handle money. I'm just like, okay, this doesn't make any sense.
A little more important, but I shouldn't say that. It's not more important, but it's very important.
It's important. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't want to just get grilled by all the people up
Three
there. So
three people.
yeah, exactly. Okay, Christina, this is so good. I want to pivot a little bit. So I mentioned in the intro, you're also a speaker, a very, very good speaker. You've been doing it now. I don't know how many years exactly. So, but I want to hear a couple things. What do you typically speak on? And then I want to hear about your first speaking experience because we all have it where it's like, okay, this is my first legitimate speaking experience. How did that go?
So about 6 years ago when when I was working for BuildWit and then I left there, I got a huge following. Thank you, BuildWit, on LinkedIn. Like I got a big boost right around then. And I was writing as I always do, and I'm always outspoken, especially about women in construction, diversifying our industry, workforce development in general. And I was also starting Crew Collaborative at that point, and I was consulting. And so a lot of things happening, and I had this I can't even remember who it was. It wasn't AEM, it was like Association of Equipment Management Professionals, so it was like AEMP. Um,
Yep. Yep.
so this woman reached out to me and was like, "I love your writing. Would you like to come be the keynote speaker at our conference?" And I had never spoken before, ever, ever. And I was like, immediately, no. No, I won't
Oh,
be doing that. And she wrote back and was like, "Are you sure? We'd really like to have you out. This is what we'll pay you." And I'm like, "Oh, you'll pay me that much money?" And it was like a lot of money. And
wow.
and also, "Oh, we'll fly you out to Savannah, Georgia, and we're gonna put you up in this really nice hotel, and you just have to speak in front of 300 people." And I was like, "Okay, whatever, I'll figure it out." And I was like, "Sure, I'm in." So my first speaking engagement was in Savannah, in front of about 300 people, and I spoke about workforce diversity and culture, and I can't remember what the title of it was, but I put together my PowerPoint. It was horrible. It was
Oh no.
horrible. It was so poorly put together. I hate PowerPoints. I don't use them anymore. Um, so I put it together. I got in front of this room, and it was literally like 297 guys and 3 women. And I was like, "Okay." I went through my whole speech, and then about 3/4 of the way in, decided to just scrap it and start talking about what I felt like they'd actually wanna hear about.
What?
And that was when I said to them, which actually pivoted a lot of the ways I thought about, workforce development and, this young versus old vibe that we've got going on in the industry. So I just like asked the room and I said, "How many of you, well, actually, you guys tell me how you feel about millennials." Because at that point, I think that we were all complaining about millennials. And that was like, oh, raising their hand, like, oh, they don't want to work. Oh, they're lazy. All they want to do is play video games, whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. So we don't like millennials. We think they're lazy and we don't want them to work with us. And everyone was like, yeah, that's what we're saying. And I was like, all right, now show of hands, how many of you have kids who are millennials? And no joke, like over 3/4 of the room raised their hand. And I'm just like, immediately, without thinking, because my brain and my mouth, like, there's no like, I was like, well, this is all your fucking fault. And
Right.
and it was like this, I don't know, like, holy shit moment for me. Like, how have I never tied this together? That the people that are complaining about millennials are the parents of the millennials. Like, they have not done a great job. Like, how are we not talking about this connection more? That there's like a disconnect, right, between the parents and the kids. And then the other question is like, how many of you would encourage your kids to go into construction? Like maybe 3 raised their hand.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm going to spend the rest of my career talking about, is this disconnect between millennials and their parents and how we've created this problem for ourselves And we've created this problem in our industry by not encouraging our kids. So,
Wow, that's very powerful. You could have almost just had like 100-foot screen with a big blanket over it, and then be like, "All right, I have the answer to your problem," and it's just a big mirror. You pull it, it's like it's you guys.
that's basically what I said. And that was my first time cursing in a speaking engagement. So I did it my first one. And I literally,
One for one.
I literally said, like, this is your fucking fault. Like, and I was so like fired up in the moment. Like, I can't believe you did this to our industry. But I mean, it really is. Like, they grew up, the older generation has grown up in a much harsher, more intense, less attentive environments than are being built for young people right now. And so, of course, the mindset is like, I don't want my kid doing this. My back hurts and I feel like shit all the time. And my body is falling apart. And so, it's an interesting dynamic. So yeah, that was my first speaking engagement. And from there, people actually continued asking me to speak. And I am not polished. I ramble kind of like I am today. Um, I do have some sort of guidelines. Definitely don't advertise myself as a professional speaker, but it just keeps happening. So, yeah.
The thing I love about speaking is that it is difficult to get yourself up there, and the confidence you need to stand in front of 300 people and teach or give your opinion or put something together. It is always difficult. So that's why I always recommend people do it, because we are called to do hard things. We're called to do difficult things. And um, one of the number one most feared things in this life is public speaking, of all things. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the worst, then we're doing okay. But I just highly recommend anyone listening, if that's your biggest fear, go do it.
And I just want to take a minute too to like, from a mom standpoint right now, I'm like proud of you. I'm proud of you and like all the things you've done, especially, I mean, since I've known you in the past 6 years, like seeing you up in front of all these like really big groups and they're so excited to hear you speak. And then you got your podcast and now you're going to be a dad. And I'm like the maternal instincts, like, oh, look at Luke, like you're doing it. Like, it's super, super cool to see people that you believe in succeed, doing what they're supposed to be doing. So good for
Well,
you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. It means a lot, and I didn't expect that. But yeah, Christina, we just have so many wonderful people in our lives that we get to have as our mentors, as our friends, such as yourself, and just people that we get to build around and inspire us. And yeah, as we have this conversation, as we have this podcast, it's like you just hope that we can also inspire somebody else. And yeah, that's really really sweet of you to say.
Yeah. I can be nice sometimes.
Yeah, where did that come from? Uh, I'm just kidding. Um, Gosh, I love it. Christina, what you mentioned it a second ago. Want to make sure we dive into it a little bit before we jump off here today. But you founded Crew Collab. You're now the vice president of Crew Collab. We talked about it on the last couple episodes. Obviously, I had Eric on the show. Would love to hear a little bit more of the founding story of Crew. Like we've talked about, what Crew is, what they do, but how did it come to light? How did you guys start Crew Collaborative?
So Crew started in 2020, early from 20. It was honestly a group chat on Instagram between me and about 12 girls, women. And we were just, shooting the shit about what we love about industry, what we hate about industry, what we feel like needed to change. And we got it in our heads that we wanted to start an organization. A few of us met in person at ConExpo 2020 before the whole world, shut down, and just kind of like continued to pull on that thread. So we got together July 2020 for the first time. So right in the middle of COVID, we decided to have a retreat in Minnesota. So we had 12 women come up here. We went to Extreme Sandbox, ran some equipment. Oh. Then we really had like a structured weekend of like topics and things that we wanted to accomplish and planning. And CREW originally stood for Construction Retreat Empowering Women. And that's what we named it. We quickly figured out, so like on Friday, it was Construction Retreat Empowering Women. By Sunday, it was no longer just for women in construction. And it became like everybody. We decided that the problem was big enough that it could not just focus on women. We needed to be tuned in to anybody that could potentially join our industry. And oh, by the way, like we really love men and we love the men who have mentored us and supported us throughout our careers. So we didn't feel like the industry needed another group of women talking about just women. Oh, by the way, like what's a group of women talking to other women going to do in an industry that was at that time like 96% men or something ridiculous? Like it wasn't going to get us any traction. And so we founded Crew. We had our first board meeting in January of 2021 in Des Moines, Iowa. And from that point, our board was 50-50 male, female. And it's a unique organization. I mean, there's no other way to say it. We're very focused on workforce development in the industry and getting into high schools. We have a uniquely formed board in the fact that like people are all over the United States. We have heavy equipment operators. We've had plumbers. We have project managers. We have business owners. We have salespeople. We have all types of roles on our board represented. You know, we got Eric, who's Mr. Crane guy, who's our president elect, Eric Strubig, and then Zach Taylor, who's an owner operator, who also spends a lot of time talking about trench safety. And so we've got a gamut. It makes it very difficult to run, you know, being that we're all over the place and not everybody involved is experienced in nonprofit running and all that stuff. But the passion drives it for sure. And we've been lucky to have some really great sponsors involved. And every year I'm surprised that we're still able to do it and that people are still showing up with interest. And so I hope it's still around, you know, in 20, 25 years. So
Yeah, and just to clarify, it's a nonprofit, and then
501(c)(3), yeah.
501(c)(3), and then, like, where does the money come in? And, like, I guess if people are listening, like, is there a way to donate, or is there a sponsorship available? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, we will never say no to money. Big fan.
Great rule to live by.
We are currently sponsored by Toro, Case Equipment, Association of Equipment Managers, Manitowoc, Trimble, and hopefully I didn't forget anybody. And Sporerland out in, gosh, somewhere in the Midwest. We are hoping to up our sponsor dollars so that we could introduce more programs. That said, we have learned how to operate very leanly. We do have an executive director who we pay for, and we're always looking for new partners to come in and support. That can look like joining our coffee club, which is like $25 a month and a great way to just contribute, all the way up to our high level sponsors, which can be, you know, $25,000 to $50,000 annually. So we know all these companies have money earmarked for donations, and we would love to be the nonprofit that they do that for. So
Okay, this is set up so beautifully. I wanna make sure I don't miss this. How do they give? Like, if somebody's listening right now, they're like, 25 bucks a month, coffee, like, that's easy. How do they do that?
so the best thing to do is go to our website, which is www.crewcollab.org. Otherwise, you can look up Crew Collaborative on pretty much anything. We are the.crew.collab, I believe, on Instagram, but hopefully you'll link that with this episode.
Yep.
And then we're on LinkedIn. I mean, you can't miss us. And if you know Luke, I'm sure if you send him a direct message and say, I want to send Kristina money for Crew, he'll be like, all right, sounds good.
Yeah,
Here's
I'll send you half.
a finder's fee. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's like $87, kind of a weird number, but
Weird.
yeah, no, I love it. Guys, if you're listening, obviously you can reach out to Kristina on any social media platform. You can reach out to Crew Collab on any platform. Obviously, you can always reach out to me. But Kristina, and everyone listening, we'll link that in the description. Crew Collab's website. I love that you have the low dollar amount because 25K a year, it's a big investment, or 50K a year, and not every company can do it. But what I've realized is that when you can bring the mission and all the people dedicated to that mission together, and sometimes too, just having that clear path of giving. Everyone wants to give. That's my belief. Everyone wants to give, but they don't have that opportunity staring them straight in the face where it's like, here's your opportunity. And so when you're listening and you hear this,
Fine. Yeah.
yeah, and you want to support this incredible organization that is moving the industry forward, which is it cannot be done alone. This is a direct way you can help out. So,
What
Kristina, I love that.
want to add, because I will literally get murdered by Maya if I don't. We do classroom talks where we talk directly into high school classrooms. So if you're like, man, I really wish I could support workforce development in my industry, how do I make a difference? You can be a presenter on one of our classroom talks, and we accept anybody in the industry to come talk about what they do. So if you're interested, that's a great reason to reach out, and you don't even have to pay us.
That's amazing. Even better. Just use your time. Get to talk to the students. Yeah, Maya is the executive director. She is incredible. I got to work with her quite a bit when I was on the board, and she is amazing. So yeah, Kristina, it's been so cool seeing everything you're doing through the years, and also what you will continue to do. Am fired up for your start with Roar's companies and to see what you can bring to their team. I know it's going to be special. It's going to be fun. There's going to be good days and hard days, but um, I'm excited to run this episode back a year from now, have you back on, and just see where you're at, because you are such a great leader in the industry. But I love how you just wear your heart on your sleeve. You're open, honest, transparent, and I think like people can tell, like when you're hiding something, when you're hiding behind something, you're on a podcast, you're saying it like so surface level, um, but you just dive deep into it, and I absolutely love it. So, on behalf of everyone listening, thank you for being on the show, and for everyone listening this deep into the episode, thank you for continuing to listen to the podcast, so we can have celebrity guests like Kristina on the show. Yeah, and that's how we're gonna wrap up, Kristina. And so, I guess one last thing, just so everyone's clear, if somebody wants to reach out to you, send you a message, let you know they're listening, or have any questions, what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
My favorite thing is LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you should have one, and get on there and add me. But otherwise, hit me up on there. I'm also on Instagram, but not as active. Like to keep that one a little private. So
Yeah, I'm always preaching on LinkedIn on here. And so if you guys are on there, obviously connect with me on there, but connect with Kristina. She is an 11 out of 10 LinkedIn follow, and those are very rare. And so you'll get so much out of following her and connecting with her. But the other thing that you might not realize is that LinkedIn, it's a direct line to the person you want to talk to. Direct line. It's almost better than texting, calling, Instagram, Facebook, anything. It is a direct line to them. And rarely, I mean, there are people out there that have people running their LinkedIns, but I would say it's very rare. Most people, if it's their LinkedIn, they're the ones behind there messaging you back.
yeah, I 100% tout LinkedIn building my career. If I didn't have a platform like that where I can do my writing and my communication, like there would be no success.
Yeah, it's a great place to vent too, which is nice.
Wow.
I love it. All right, guys. This is episode number 122 with Kristina McMillan. Kristina, thank you so much for being on the show. We will see you on the next one.